Coumo Brothers under fire after joking about coronavirus while nursing home deaths in New York increase.
Welcome back. There's a major scandal going on with Governor Andrew Cuomo's deadly decision to pack nursing homes with COVID patients. Instead of asking his brother about the disastrous mishandling, CNN's Chris Cuomo decided he'd rather joke around instead.
This is the normal swab. Is it true that this was the swab that the nurse was actually using on you, and that at first it went into your nose and disappeared, so that in scale, this was the actual swab that was being used to fit up that double-barrel shotgun that you have mounted on the front of your pretty face? Love
That
Gov.
is not.
Come on, which was
This
it?
is not love. This is not love.
Gray?
I love this. How big is your I mean, I'm all for humor in politics, but how big is your blind spot not to see how stupid this is? Something is missing in Cuomo world. It's any concept of self-awareness. First, Chris told everybody to quarantine, and then he broke his. Then he got all ticked off at Trump for trying a prescribed drug, and in which then he dosed on something less safe, a less safe version. And then he always talks about how Trump is indifferent to suffering, and he's, turning into Carrot Top with the governor of New York as thousands have died in rest homes. The consequences of this, though, aren't funny. The reason why the media lionized Andrew Cuomo while the rest homes were being ravaged was in part due to these adorable little skits and routines on CNN. That gave them isn't it great? Let's tune in and watch. It's so human. Could you imagine Andrew Cuomo on Special Report? What would have happened if Bret Baier pulled out like a giant swab? They'd be calling him indifferent to death and suffering. So I have a final dumb question. Chris Cuomo, Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper, what are they? I know what I am, and I know what Tucker is. I know what Jesse is. We're commentators. I know what Bill Hemmer is, and Bret Baier is, and Shannon Bream. They are news people. But there's no distinction on CNN of what they are. So they're allowed to portray opinion as fact, and then they dare to pass judgment on us in their phony stentorian words, which are just absolutely laughable. Answer that question. What are they? I don't know.
Dana, a lot of the time when politicians act out of touch, as Governor Cuomo did in that interview, it's because they don't feel like there's going to be accountability for their actions. We know that there are investigations now into the nursing home policy, but it just seems like, given his answers on that, he doesn't care much.
Well, he's riding high at an 80% approval rating right now. And again, I think that's partly because, remember, I was saying in the A block, the national media really went after the red state governors. And part of the consequence of that was that their numbers, approval ratings, are in the tank. Now, I think the facts on the ground will turn that around for them. Contrast that with Governor Cuomo, who, look, I actually enjoyed his press briefings at the beginning. I thought the communication style was really interesting. It was almost like being at a lecture. And then, however, I think that you have to question his judgment about going on his brother's show last night, because there is a real question right now that people want to know about the nursing homes. When he was asked about it recently, he said, well, I was just following CDC guidelines. But he said Trump's CDC guidelines. But there were other things that he did that he thinks, that Trump didn't do. So he's trying to pass off a really horrible, catastrophic decision on President Trump. And then, going on his brother's show, I don't think he knew about the little joke that Chris Cuomo was going to play, but it's happened enough that I think you have to wonder about the judgment of the guy and why he has an 80% approval rating.
Yeah, Juan, these interviews are always back and forth, jokey, in a difficult time. What about the families who have lost family members as a result of this policy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, again, what you just heard from Dana is the governor's rationale. He said that, in fact, the federal government was saying that you don't want to overburden the hospitals, and if it's possible, keep those folks in the senior citizens' homes. It turned out to be a terrible decision, and I think everybody's got to take responsibility. In terms of that skit that we saw, I think you're right on, Katie. I mean, I think we're going through a tough time. I don't think that's much to laugh about, but I don't think, in all honesty, that anybody's going to stick that huge swab up their nose. Nobody's going to do that. I mean, when, by comparison, you see people hoarding and talking about hydroxychloroquine or whatever after the president says he's taking that. And, again, high risk, no proven benefit for, I don't know why the president's playing medicine man and putting on his own skits. I just don't like it. I think people should take this moment seriously.
The doctor prescribed that to him. Cuomo, what did Cuomo use?
Yeah, and this
No,
this,
he asked the doctor.
the segment
Yes.
is specific. The segment,
A White House doctor.
Okay, the segment is not about hydroxychloroquine. It's about the fact that Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York, had a policy in place that required older patients to be put into nursing homes who then spread the disease around and killed thousands of people as a result of an executive order. So that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about hydroxychloroquine. Jesse.
Well, just on hydroxychloroquine, the only thing I would add would be that Andrew Cuomo, the governor, ordered 70,000 doses of it for New York. So if it's really that bad, why do you order 70,000 doses, Juan? The other thing is the CDC guidelines did not suggest you bring in infected patients into nursing homes. This is what it said. I read it. It said if you are to do that, you have to have vigilant testing and a space designated within the nursing home to quarantine new patients that are infected for 14 days before you mix them in with the rest of the population. Andrew Cuomo didn't do either of that. The other thing is with the interview, this is like how all of the media interviews Democrats. It's like interviewing a family member. It's honestly like a younger brother interviewing an older brother. You're like, you're in awe of the older brother. You're a little scared of making the older brother mad because he could kick your butt. And you just tread lightly and you try to make him laugh so he likes you. It's the same way Democrats are interviewed all of the time. And just one more thing. Some producer had to create those huge swabs. So it wasn't just like, Cuomo had this great idea and just dragged it out of the basement. Like, this went through a few levels before it got on air.
Yeah.
They went to the prop department.
Anyway.
Yes, they called Carrot Top.
Yeah.
Carrot Top has those things in a closet.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Coming up next is the Fast and Seven.